Let's start it all over again by talking about the real love. This life that we're living is going to be good. Talking about the oppressor.
We're trying to talk about really the issues we encounter in the various institutions and industry, and we need to amend our without having some issue. How would you find other resolution to overcome that obstacle? So most of the problem, it always makes us discover a new method to overcome our obstacle. So for those who thought only petroleum is the way to earn their living, well, time will prove it. The resources in every country must be prioritized to those minerals being found in their state, in their community. Yes, they must have the priority, but they shouldn't think that is the only source that a country will make a living to benefit from it. And here comes the new discovery: electricity. Cars can use electricity. Motorcycle can use electricity. As I said, when you have a problem and when you start to check, you could discover something new. And now we are having one passport, one African passport, one African currency. Is it not a great thing? Africa must transact their business within each other. Productivity taking place, made in Africa, transaction. Can you imagine? I see so many things taking place right now. The Chinese are building a railway train, underground railway.
A trip from Abuja to with ultra fast.
Called a bullet train. And now the train, the speed is 300 and something. So from Port Harcourt to Kano, Kano to Abuja, Abuja to Cairo, Egypt to South Africa, South Africa to Kenya, Kenya to Cameroon. A fast, not less than 45 minute journey from Port Harcourt to Lagos. You are there within 45 minutes. Kano to Cairo, Cairo to Johannesburg, Johannesburg to Accra, from Accra to Mauritania, Mauritania to Libya. All this not less than 45 minute journey, speeding in the blink of an eye. The 350, that's the speed. Some even 500 kilometers per hour. But with the cars, it takes you 2 days. Way of using our product today. All industry, any business you're dealing with, you need electricity. If you don't have electricity, you need a generator or the solar system. And most of the people can afford mention. Take, for example, countries with organization of petroleum exporting country. Nigeria, Venezuela, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, so on and so forth. Today, the people had so many problems facing fuels issues, running out of fuels. When we are chasing, let our intuition helps calm us down and start checking for a new solution. And that is what we come to this point of electricity cars. Tesla, brother man from South Africa, Elon Musk, congratulate him for his discovery. More grace to his elbow. All we want is progress. We must have to support and motivate them. Most of the talent going on in Africa today, in my country, Nigeria, even my village, young talent, their talents are fading. They have talent, they have so many things they can produce. Some now in Nigeria produce airplane. Some now produce projector. Some now produce made in Nigeria shoes. So now a lot of things going on. So I would like to see that our younger generation will motivate them and the government to assist sponsoring this young talent, the inventors, because that is their destiny, what God destined them for. Without supporting them, it will fade out, and suddenly most of them will be recruited by Boko Haram, bandit, insurgency, nuisance attitude. Before you know, that dream is over. So we had a dream, work against that dream. Freedom don't just come to you. You must fight for that freedom. And freedom is not free. Fight and get it. You cannot be given so freely. You must stand for it. Take a stance for your freedom, for your right. Take a stance against, brother and sisters. Most of the engineer, the software engineer and scientists work things out to use electricity than the fuel, because the fuel scarcity is being immersed. Most of the countries, they don't produce petroleum. So, but every country has electricity. Today, that industry of electricity is taking over. Very soon, fuel scarcity will be a thing of a past. And I remember most of the issue we had in Africa, in Nigeria, South Africa, the members of OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Country, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia. But today, people who don't have petroleum, who don't have those subsidies to make their economic boast, they are working things out, hidden, and now it boasts out. Most of the cars are using electricity. No country on this planet who don't have electricity. So it look like the fuel, petroleum, will be a thing of a past soon. As I know, with that problem, how would you discover a new method to survive? And special advice to our females. Most of them cannot just lay back, being dependent on marriage status. Marriage is very, very, very great. We came to this life because of a man and a woman come together and give birth to the young ones. But our females in Africa, they must have to learn how to be a little bit focusing on their education first. But as soon at the age of 25, then you start thinking to make your family, and you can't just depends love. We were born with love, and love is who you are. My people in Nigeria say, now love a good job. Joe, it couldn't be. Take a stance and work towards your business, either in the marketing, different skills. It doesn't matter, you are educated, then you ignore tailoring. So tailoring is not what I study, but it's making a source of income, Oh, I study science, I study law, I study this, I study engineering, I study mechanic, I study social, I study technology. But when that doesn't go through for you to earn your living, what can you make adjustment? Find other lucrative business to sustain you at that moment. It's a sort of sidekick. Some people have about 3 jobs, not just depend on one, of which, like me, I left home because of music, but today I have 4 skills. No pain, no gain. If this part doesn't work, you stick to that. If that one doesn't work, you stick to that. If this one don't work, you stick to that. It's a sidekick. You will lose one, but you get one. My Yoruba brother said, Brugu doesn't Brookie doesn't go and steal his food and put it in one hole. He digs so many holes to keep them. In case it happens, he will lose what he stored in one place. Other animals may go and eat what he hidden. Squirrel, rat, grass cutter may go and steal some of his things that are he hidden on the ground. But only Brookie, he has to store it in different places so that if this one being stolen, he has to have another one to maneuver to get his own life through. So these are some of the lucrative business that one have to assist herself with when time gets harder, because what you study or what you practice or what you learn as apprentice. Some people don't want to hear word apprentice. They will say, oh, he's less educated. That's why he went to apprentice. I study. When you mention study, yeah, that's what they thought is the only way to make a living. But you study, but then side road mechanic is making a lot of money. Cars being parked in his garage on the road for him to fix. Electric engineer, they have so many electrical stuff for him to fix, like computer, like generator, all that loading waiting for him. He wake up at some time, he sleep at his own time. These are the lucrative business. Not necessary that you must think education is the key, but there is other education that you will learn without stepping to a class. That's what I say. Education is a key. I don't say no, but it's not all for life. Because some people, like our brethren and sisters in Africa, even here in America and Europe and Asia and Russia, they don't step to a class. They don't even been to a class, but they are able to make a living and employ the people to work for he or her. So, wake up from your slumber. It's time to survive. Don't just stick to one thing that you say you study or you practice. Indoctrinate our young ones, either in the school, church, or mosque, or other practitioner beliefs. Apply it. It's a survival world. Who cares whether you don't have certificate or whether you have master or you have PhD? It doesn't matter. Your degree, your MBA, your PhD speaks not with just paper. When you are speaking, your level of people listening to you, it speaks by itself. It doesn't have to show books. I respect education. I respect those who work their ass out to study. That's not the end of the world. Advise the young one, because we're not destiny equally by God. We are born to earn our living in different field of specialization. That's all I'm saying here. So wake up from my slumber, lazy ass. Yes, every human being is born with kind of laziness. Some call it comfort zone. When you started having it, then you English better. That's what he gonna say. So let the people come and worship you, and before you know, oh, you are becoming so heavyweight. And before you know, stomach stepping out. Here I am. Yes, you can't even walk and breathe well because you enter and stuck in your comfort zone. Move, you are. So move, brethren and sisters. Move. Your strength, your health come first. Shape up this body that God gave to you So are you able to walk freely, vibrant? Anything you're doing, you're healthy. Your health is proof. Your movement, your looks speaks, and everything will open. Without your health, your body is cracking. You won't think well. You won't have a focus to do what you want to do. Temper. These are the strategies that we have to indoctrinate our young ones for the progress of African states.
Just over 30 years after the idea was initially conceived, it appears that the whole of West Africa will now be adopting one currency. On the 29th of June 2019, the leaders of the 15 countries that make up the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, agreed to adopt the ECO as the new single currency. If all goes to plan, then the existing national currencies of all of the countries in the region will be replaced by the ECO by as early as next year. One of the most significant effects of this new development is that it will mark the end of the CFA franc, the currency used by 8 of the 15 ECOWAS member states. The subject of many debates, protests, and political speeches, the CFA franc is seen by many as not just a relic of French colonialism in Africa, but as a strategic tool which is used by the French government to maintain dominance over its former colonies. To really understand why the CFA franc is such a blood-boiling topic, one must look at its history. In 1945, France, under the interim leadership of Charles de Gaulle, established the CFA as the currency for all of its African colonies. The name CFA stood for Colonie Française d'Afrique, which can be translated to English as French Colonies of Africa. But after the decolonization process of the 50s and 60s, the CFA zone reduced in size, as Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Madagascar all developed their own national currencies. However, the newly independent Western and Central African French colonies retained the CFA as their currencies. Today, there are 2 CFA currencies still in use across Africa. The first is the West African CFA, which now stands for Communauté Financière d'Afrique, which in English means Financial Communities of Africa, and is the currency of Benin, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. And the second CFA is the Central African CFA, which now stands for Coopération Financière en Afrique Centrale, which means the Financial Cooperation in Central Africa, and is the currency of Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon. The big scandal in all of this is that 50 years after the supposed independence of these countries, France still maintains a tight grip over the currencies of the 14 former colonies that make up the 2 CFA zones. Like something from a weird and wacky conspiracy theory, France's influence is so entrenched that even the CFA notes and coins are printed in France before being transported to the countries where they will be used. The amount of CFA francs in circulation, as well as the exchange rate, are both determined by the French finance minister. The CFA is also pegged to the euro, and in order to maintain parity with the euro, the central banks of the members of the CFA zones are required to deposit 50% of their currency reserves in the French central bank. The value of African reserve assets held in Paris were recently estimated at $20 billion. And even worse, these deposits are subject to negative interest, meaning that the African governments are actually paying for their money to be stored in France. Quite understandably, many are outraged by this situation, arguing that through this arrangement, France strangles the economies of the CFA countries by limiting the liquidity of their central banks and thereby blocking their access to investment capital. The fact that the CFA is pegged to the euro means that when the euro is strong, the CFA is also strong. Now, this is very handy for the rich and powerful members of the African elite who enjoy frequent trips to Europe and own foreign properties. But for the local businesses who rely on exporting their goods to neighboring countries with weaker currencies, a strong CFA is a major problem. In periods of economic growth, African central banks are hindered from increasing the money supply to match economic growth predictions. And so growing businesses struggle to access the funds they need to invest, as banks simply do not have enough cash to lend. According to Togolese economist Kako Nubukbo, there is a rationing of credit, and so banks are very reluctant to lend to businesses, and even when they do, they lend in small amounts and at high interest rates.
According to some, the CFA is actually a key component of the shadow neocolonial system, which has been popularly termed La France-Afrique. According to the proponents of this viewpoint, the French government actively works to select and keep in power only those African leaders that are committed to serving French interests in Africa. Whether or not this is actually the case is a topic for another video. The official justification which is generally given is the idea that staying in this Franco-African monetary union guarantees monetary stability across the region. You see, unlike the vast majority of other African currencies, the CFA is actually very stable due to the fact that it's pegged to the euro. France's restrictions on money printing means that the CFA zones enjoy very low levels of inflation when compared to other African countries in the region. By way of comparison, the inflation figures of Senegal and Ivory Coast for June 2019 were 2.1% and 1.2% respectively, while in Nigeria and Ghana, those figures were 11.2% and 9.1%. With the emergence of the ECO, however, it would appear that the leaders of French-speaking West Africa have finally decided that the need for independence trumps any perceived benefits of staying tied to France.
All AfroGold notes and coins will carry holographic AU seals and serial verification that links to a live reserve value. Security details. AfroGold will not be printable like ordinary currency. No country can unilaterally create more without audited gold. Digital wallet transfers will require biometrics or encryption keys. The bigger message. This story isn't just about currency. It's about Africa rising. It's about control, value, dignity, and vision. Yesterday was the economic liberation that matches what the political Pan-African Chairman Shadow. Final note from Takunda Mabika. History didn't just get written yesterday, it got minted. AfroGold is no longer a proposal. It is the official starting line for One Africa's journey into real sovereignty.
If approved and completed, the project would connect major cities in Nigeria times drastically.
Nigeria represents 2/3 of the GDP of the entire ECOWAS region and is home to about half of its entire population. Quite understandably, some commentators are predicting that the Ecozone will be dominated by Nigeria in a manner much more severe than how the Eurozone is dominated by Germany. But maybe this is a risk worth taking. By choosing to adopt the same currency, the ECOWAS member states anticipate that they will be able to boost interregional trade between member states. The hope is that the adoption of this new currency could help to double and perhaps even triple interstate trade from the current total of 10% to a more impressive 20 or even 30% over the adoption of the ECO, in which the villain that is France will be defeated once and for all. However, the reality might turn out to be quite different the next decade. In any case, a full 2020 rollout of the ECO is not necessarily set in stone. As a safety mechanism, the ECOWAS member states also identified 3 criteria that must be satisfied before the ECO can be adopted. 1. An inflation rate of less than 5%. 2. A budget deficit of less than 3% of GDP. And 3. Foreign reserves that can cover over 3 months' worth of imports. The pink elephant in the room is that as of 2019, no one member state has managed to satisfy all 3 of the agreed criteria. But will the situation be different by this time next year? I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
According to explosive intel received late last night from my trusted insider, Protocol Black, a massive policy shift was quietly finalized yesterday inside the African Union Parliament in Pretoria. Here's the shocker. Supreme Africa breaking nucho. Kana wakanyarara, ticha tawara isu. Pretoria, South Africa. African Union Parliament. The One Africa government has confirmed that on day 1 of becoming operational, it will abandon the US dollar for trade and replace it with a gold-backed Pan-African currency, officially named AfroGold.
By switching from the CFA to the ECO, Francophone West Africa will simply be handing over control from France to Nigeria. You see, as of 2019,
this will be one of the most historic economic moves in modern African history. It's the first law of the One Africa government. Page 1. Day 1. Protocol Black, inside AU meeting technician. AfroGold to replace dollar from day 1. The AfroGold currency, backed by actual physical gold stored in a newly created Continental Gold Reserve System, CGRS, will be the only official trade and government currency recognized by the new One Africa government institutions. That means no USD contracts will be honored. All foreign investors must convert to AfroGold. African citizens will access AfroGold digital wallets and physical currency through AU-linked banks and payment terminals. And get this, every government salary, every military supply deal, every development fund will be issued in AfroGold from the moment the One Africa government opens its doors. Top AU Transition Advisor. Gold reserves confirmed from 12 countries. Our insider confirmed that 12 African nations have officially submitted gold allocations to the CGRS as of yesterday's Pretoria meeting. These include South Africa, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Mali, Sudan, DR Congo, Burkina Faso, Tanzania, Guinea, Algeria, Egypt, Namibia. Together, these deposits are enough to back the first 50 million AfroGold currency units, each pegged to 1 gram of 24K gold. A special vault facility is being finalized under tight security in Kigali, Rwanda, with backup digital validation through blockchain-secured ledgers headquartered in Dakar. It's the most coordinated monetary security system ever attempted in Africa. Signed and sealed. Documents finalized yesterday. The SABN team has not yet seen the full official document, but according to Protocol Black, the following policy clauses were finalized yesterday afternoon and stamped by the AU Parliament's Economic Chair. 1. Legal abandonment of USD in government operations. 2. Mandatory use of AfroGold in cross-border African trade. 3. Prohibition of new dollar debt by AU institutions. 4. Digital AfroGold integration for diaspora investors. 5. Gold audit reports to be published quarterly. This means every African ministry under One Africa will now operate with full gold reserve accountability. Why this was finalized in Pretoria, not Addis Ababa. According to Chairman Shadow, the decision to finalize this deal in Pretoria instead of AUHQ in Addis Ababa was a strategic one. The African Union Parliament, now temporarily seated in Pretoria for Transition Period 1, has become the nucleus of all One Africa government Day 1 decisions. From currency to defense, education to trade, Pretoria is where the Africa of tomorrow is being drafted today. It was not a negotiation. It was the final act. They signed. They closed it. The world just doesn't know it yet. Impact expected immediately on One Africa launch day. Let's be clear, this will not be gradual. From hour 1, day 1, the following changes are expected. Army payroll switches to AfroGold. Cross-border fuel trade in AfroGold. Digital wallet rollout begins in 20 capitals. Diaspora onboarding begins via AfroGold Invest portal. Foreign embassies operating in Africa have already been informed they will need to obtain AfroGold via CGRS certified exchanges. And yes, our insiders confirmed that even China and Russia are ready to switch to AfroGold for all new Africa trade deals. US dollar shakeup expected. Global market reactions are already being tracked in private investor forums. The economist of Addis, who attended the Pretoria meeting, told SAON they know. The big players know. They just can't stop it anymore. In fact, some Western envoys reportedly walked out of AU observer sessions yesterday when the AfroGold confirmation was made. This is the day they feared, when Africa stops begging for dollars. Educational programs already written. Another insider document seen by Sabe's AABN shows that AfroGold literacy programs are already complete, ready for rollout to ensure that even the most rural African farmer or vendor understands how to use AfroGold, how to trust it, and how to grow their wealth with it. President Lorenzo's message: this was not symbolic, this is our law. Late last night, President João Lourenço reportedly sent a message to all AU heads of state and transition officers. This is not a press release. This is not an idea. This is our new law. The continent will now trade with its own gold. No longer will we value ourselves in foreign paper. Coming next, AfroGold minting begins in 3 countries. You heard it here first. Minting has already started in pilot locations. Ghana, Kumasi facility. South Africa, Pretoria Mint under AU protection. Zimbabwe, Bulawayo trial mint. These mists of the past always dreamed of. And now, it's law. They cannot sanction gold, They cannot block it. They cannot fake it. And now they cannot stop Africa from using it.
Imagine waking up in Abuja, having a business lunch in Port Harcourt, and then going for a dinner date in Lagos before heading back to Abuja to sleep. All this happening on the same day. This is not fiction but a reality. That's what this bullet train project is about to create in Nigeria. Nigeria is considering one of the biggest railway projects in Africa's history, a proposed $60 billion electric high-speed railway, sometimes referred to as a bullet train, has been put forward by a Chinese firm in partnership with the Nigerian. Bill is still under government review, but it has already created interest, excitement, and skepticism both inside and outside Nigeria. On August 12, 2025, a consortium led by Desadel Nigeria Limited, in partnership with China Liankai Petroleum Investment Holdings, submitted the high-speed railway proposal to the Nigerian federal government. This proposal followed the successful approval of an outline business case by the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission. The ICRC's approval means the basic plan and concept meet the required guidelines, but a more detailed full business case must still be prepared for the Federal Executive Council before final approval can be granted.
Our traditional chieftaincy, every ranks must have a special time to advise, call the citizens, advise them. God bless y'all. Egon Tiger, say one love. I really.
Outlaws are inferiors. Shopping to suck blood of sufferers. That lead us to human slavery. Only one that feel it, know it better. Human slavery. Yes, we want. Yes, we want. One world currency. Yes, we want. Yes, we want. One world currency.